Welcome to the Teep Show, a show for veterans and casuals alike, where we break down the biggest news in and around the fighting world. I'm Alex. That man next to me is Jonah, and we are so back, baby. We've been on a Rose finally. We've been on a Rose Namajunas induced break for 2 weeks. I'll respect Tracy hibernation. I'll respect to Amanda Lemos, but we're not making a pod for that. What we are making a pod for is one of the best cards of the year. That is UFC 304 in Manchester, England. And watching the countdown, I was surprised to see that this is only the second time in UFC history that a British champ will have an opportunity to defend his belt, Jonah.
Yeah. They gotta do Manchester while Leon still has the belt, and obviously Tom's icing on the cake. So I know we lost Till, but really you can't ask for a better Manchester card than this main card.
That's true. We're gonna hop right into it. We have two segments today, and only two. That is our UFC 304 preview, and then our second ever mailbag. The biggest mailbag we've ever had. 1 out of 2. So we're gonna hop in real quick with the prelims. Two fights that we'll see some betting action will be Jake Hadley versus Lauren. I was actually in person to see Jake Hadley's last win. That was Usman Edwards 3 over in the O2. Jonah, we've seen him get fraud checked since. Is there any stock left in Jake Hadley?
I don't really get it. His boxing is impressive, and he seems to have impressive jiu-jitsu off his back. That would seemingly make him a threat anywhere. And yet he can't really put anything together, and kind of gets taken down at will, and kind of just tries to throwing submissions off your back is not the way to victory in MMA. So I expect this little Irish fullback to lay on him for at least 2 out of 3 rounds and get a decision win.
He's certainly one of those guys that seems too comfortable. Getting taken down. That's one thing to be confident.
Terrible takedown defense.
Well, it's like he doesn't even try sometimes.
Yeah.
Almost like Liverpool's own Darren Till, right? It's like, not that Till had something off his back.
Back up.
Not that Till had anything off his back, but sometimes these takedowns are kind of like just leaning over, almost like judo, like women's judo throws. So fraud check, we're staying away from that. We have one more, Nathaniel Wood versus Daniel Pineda. Now, Nathaniel Wood can crack, Jonah. What do you think about that one?
Wood's solid. He can't. I can't see him getting into the top 10 of featherweight. He's kind of probably in that Dan Ige tier of fighters that can gatekeep the top 10. But Pineda, pretty much a bottom feeder at featherweight. I'd expect this to be a cruiser 30-27 win for Wood.
Yeah,
wherever
you're looking at
he wants the fight to go.
Right. You're looking at a guy that might, lost to Cub Swanson in 2020 when Cub was, 38. Lost to Alex Caceres, which isn't a bad loss in of itself, but just a guy that was in the PFL not so long ago. So that's kind of the
there's levels here. Wood's solid. You got to be real deal if you want to beat Wood.
For sure. Now, it's tough to say that we're going to go with what fight is opening up the main card here. We are going to the main card, and then we'll go back to the prelims later. Then we'll talk about that.
That's a question mark.
It's hard to say what fight is really going to open this thing up because, let's just say we'll get to it later. And instead, we're going to do Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. Giga was about 2 years ago this time, maybe 3, was an undefeated, really exciting. I actually remember you being excited about him. Was an exciting European kickboxer. Had the mythical Giga kick where he was just able to find the liver on so many guys. And for the casuals out there, if you get hit very hard in the liver, your whole body shuts down. You can't move. So he was able to do this 2-3 times. Yeah, 2-3 times in the UFC and in previous. And he got the definition of the word fraud check is when someone is a highly touted prospect and they run into somebody that absolutely exposes flaws in their game. For Giga, that was Calvin Kattar. it was tough with Cater because Cater was a boxer as well. And it wasn't a situation where you have a wrestler exposing a very big takedown gap. What I was going to say was Robles Champagne, the Cuban heavyweight that looked like he could knock everyone out. Very average wrestler laid down on him for 3 rounds. So that being said, Giga still has some juice here. The line is not onerous for a very, very game opponent. A guy that arguably could be champion in another era of featherweights. I mean, Arnold Allen lost to Max and probably probably gave Max the best test he's had at featherweight outside of Volkanovski, I'd say. And a guy that has, and then went and gave another boogeyman, Evloev, a real run from his money, showing good takedown defense, well-rounded everywhere. So what do you see when we talk about Allen Giga?
I was listening to Moicano and Gilbert Burns' podcast earlier, and they both were picking Giga. The catch to that is that Giga was the guest on their podcast today. So
yeah, yes, for sure, brother.
Take
brother.
That with a grain of salt. But look, I get it.
I just want to say I'm on Giga's Wikipedia right now, and I just have to say this line. As a child, he inspired to join martial arts after watching movies by Jet Li and Bruce Lee. So
that doesn't surprise me based on his fight style. Yeah, I mean, he's rock solid on the feet, like top level in the entire promotion. But yeah, 100%. When he dominated Edson Barbosa on the feet, I thought we had a problem. But I mean, if you watch the Cater fight, Cater smokes him everywhere. And I would argue that Arnold Allen is just a better version of Cater everywhere. And frankly, that even got proven in the Arnold Allen and Cater fight. So I'd expect no different here. Is it possible? I mean, Giga's so fast and is so good on the feet that maybe if Arnold can't get him down, that Giga can catch him. But the most likely result here, I'd imagine, is Arnold taking him to school for 15 minutes.
It's Arnold mixing it up, right? Because Giga, even in the Caceres fight, that Holloway TKZ card that they were on.
Yeah.
When it's standing, he's a scary dude, and he's very creative.
Sure. I don't think Arnold should stand much with him.
Right. But Cater, very much not a wrestler. We just saw Cater basically get laid on by Aljo, who is very good at grappling, but absolutely outclassed. And Cater was able to.
Cater looked like a D1 All-American against
Giga. Almost replicate that against Giga when he wanted to. So the line is, we're a little surprised at this. The line right now I see is Allen minus 235 is the favorite, Giga plus 190.
That's tightened quite a bit then, because Allen got up to like 280. I saw on some sites.
I think 280 is much more appropriate for 3 rounds. I think that Allen should take this to the ground. He looked really good against Evloev. He lost. Was it?
He did.
Was it 29-28 or 30-27?
Well, I don't remember what the exact scorecards were because it got a little muffled with the arguable illegal shots in the 3rd round that probably would have put Evloev out. By the way, based on the ruling they passed today with 12-6 elbows and a hand down for illegal knees, would be considered a legal shot today. And so Allen probably would have won that fight if we were playing under current rule set. So I don't remember the exact scorecards because I think Allen got a point taken away there. Okay. So it might have been 29-27, but point is he looked great in that fight and was arguably going to win if that wasn't stopped by Herb Dean.
Crucially, he looked great grappling against Evloev, who's probably the scariest. I mean, Aljo's here now, but Evloev's probably the scariest grappler at 45.
For sure.
And that's the path to victory. So do you see a finish in the cards, or do you think this is going to be kind of a Not a lay and pray, but a offensive wrestling showcase.
Giga lasted 25 minutes with Cater. I'll give him the respect and say he can last 15 minutes with Allen.
Yeah.
I actually do think Allen could. I mean, at least once he establishes the takedown threat. So Giga's worried about that. Allen's so fucking fast. He probably could piece him up a little bit on the feet eventually and catch him.
Yeah.
But I'll say it goes to decision for Allen.
And if you want to see how fast Allen is and only have 3 minutes in your day, go watch the Allen Hooker fight. And good Lord, man, that is a great one. That is a great one. So both boys are going Allen here, and I think both boys think there's value at 235. Is that fair?
Agree.
Yeah. This is kind of unbelievably, but also completely believably, the fight that the UFC is hyping outside of the 2 title fights we have. So you have Leon on the advert, you have Tom Aspinall, Blaydes on the advert, and then you have who, Jonah? Who's the other guy that they're pushing? He's got funny hair. He's got Paddy Pimblett is the third fight that the UFC is pushing on this card.
As they should. Hopefully the biggest star on the card. I'm sure they're open, but
he's fighting no longer Bobby Green. He is now King Green. As Paddy pointed out earlier today, this man must have CTE to be 40 and change his name to King. But we're here and they're going to fight. And look, if he has CTE, that CTE is played up pretty well in the last couple fights for Bobby. Opening up, we have slightly different views on this fight. We basically are driving down the same highway. I think I'm in the left lane. I think you're in the exit lane. We talked about the percentages that we gave Paddy to beat Bobby. Now, it's very important to say Paddy is currently – it's moved. Paddy and King Green are exactly dead even.
Yeah,
on my book right now.
Paddy, we said this the other day. I think Paddy's probably going to close minus 150.
Yeah. So Vegas has them even. This is not what we're about to say. Might be shocking to the system. I have Paddy with only a 15% chance of winning this fight. That dwarfs. Absolutely swallows up Jonah's estimate of what was it?
I don't even remember. Probably 2? About the same.
Yeah, okay.
Realistically speaking, probably about the same.
Yeah, right. The path to victory here is pretty simple. As long as it's on the feet, there's going to be a speed and a distinct striking advantage for Bobby Green. Paddy has shown us. I actually am starting to like Paddy Pimblett again, but he's shown us in no fight outside of the Luigi,
Vendramini.
Yeah, right. That he's got.
Was good. That kid was good.
Was he? I mean, I watched the fight. I don't know what he's done since then.
It was a cute fight.
Yeah. He rocked Paddy. I mean, that's a common theme of Paddy. So,
chin up in there.
Yeah, right. Paddy's gotten rocked by a lot of people.
Everybody.
He has a fantastic chin, though. To be fair to him. He's got a great chin. Luigi rocked him. Was Scouse's mate. We don't get knocked out. Luigi rocked him. Jared Gordon famously hit him with a panoply of left hooks and won that fight. Jared Gordon won that fight.
Every round.
Every round. And it was a unanimous decision, by the way, but that's fine. Whenever they're on the feet, it's going to be a speed advantage and a skill advantage for King. That being said, King doesn't have that knock. He's not going to try to knock Paddy out. It's really going to be float like a butterfly, sting like a butterfly. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but he's not really going to be able to, when Paddy leaves his chin up, he's not going to be able to take advantage of finding that chin in a one-punch knockout
Bobby works
type of
off
way.
his King Green
Thank you.
Works off his jab probably more than anybody in the division right now.
Yeah. So the path to victory. I have an idea. What do you think it is?
I think it's going to look somewhat similar to Bobby King Green and Jim Miller at UFC 300, and King is going to piece up his face for at least 2 rounds, and maybe eventually get the finish in the third when his face is so beat up. But I don't think people underestimate Bobby's wrestling and jiu-jitsu skills, and not that he can hang with the cream of the crop at lightweight on the ground,
Correct.
but Paddy got taken down by no names at will, including Jordan Levitt, who I heard Bobby trained with and submitted him 3 times easily in camp. Like, so I just don't. I think the Vegas line is reflective of them trying to squeeze every dollar out of American frat boys that they can that don't know who King Green is. And that's it. That's all it is. I think he's going to get smoked. And I do think he has a better chance at winning against King than other top lightweights, because maybe if I'm missing something and he can get him to the ground and he's just got better jits, then he can submit him. But I don't think I would have made this fight if I were the UFC, because if Bobby King beats you, he's gonna fucking embarrass you, and that's exactly what he did to
He
Jim
might
Miller.
dance on you. He might dance on you.
And I don't think it's gonna go any different with Paddy. So I think it's gonna be a long night for Paddy.
I think the path to victory for Paddy, you could get a sub, but I really think it's going to be clinch and holding him against the fence, trying to get him down and then laying there as long as humanly possible. You're right. Bobby, shit. King.
Yeah. I don't really like that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
You are
King,
a 37-year-old man, Bobby. Maybe Paddy's got a point.
I mean, Bobby did choke out Tony, and jiu-jitsu skills are the last thing to go. I know that Tony is obviously
right, a corpse
a
of,
huge, a corpse, a shell of himself, but jiu-jitsu skills are the last to go. King did choke him. It's not like King is a boxer that's never been on the mats before. The path to victory will be, I think, heavy clinch game, trying to hit short elbows in there, and basically stay away from the center of the octagon as much as possible.
Yeah,
and that's doable.
I could see a Paddy guillotine. It's not out of the realm of possibility. He's got a nice gilly.
He's got good jits, man. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He really does.
I'll say this, like, I don't think he's ever going to be ranked. I don't think he's ever going to beat a ranked lightweight. But you're not just, like, absolute dog shit if you're 5-0 in the UFC. Like,
absolutely.
He's not just some scrub or anything. This is a real fight.
Absolutely. And that's why I disagree with you when you say that this was a bad fight to make or this was the wrong fight to make. Because
it's a tough matchup with Bobby. Tough matchup because Bobby will school you.
It's tough to match Paddy up with anybody because he's dog shit, and excuse my language, but hey, he's just not a top 15 fighter, and he's 5-0. I mean, you fed him these cans. He's really 4-1, but you fed him these cans. It's time for him to fight someone ranked, and imagine him against BSD Benoit Saint-Denis. Like, oh, dude,
good night.
Ugly. Yeah, it'd be ugly. Well, actually, remember that name because we'll get back to that in our mailbag later. Sure. So, yeah, I see Paddy. I actually think the Jim Miller comp is a great one, and I think Paddy has to weaponize his chin and be willing to eat jab after jab, basically. And I don't know if it's a bum rush to get into the clinch, but basically weaponize the chin to any way you can get into that clinch situation. You got to do it. That being said, neither of us believe he has any chance whatsoever. That is the value on the card. Bobby minus 115. I think we're both trying to slam that.
Big time.
Crazy line. Absolutely crazy line. Jonah had it as minus 300 if he was making the lines. And I think that's completely straight on. Now, this is actually this is the fight I'm most excited to talk about. I think you know
We're
what's
going
coming up
back to
here.
the early
We're
prelims.
going to the early prelims, baby. We're going to the early prelims. This fight, you have to understand how unusual this is. This fight, I've never seen this before. I've been a diehard, fight night fan. For the casuals, that means I watch the shitty cards that nobody's on. I've been a diehard fight night fan for 4.5 years. I've never seen this before. Have you ever seen this before?
I don't even understand the explanation for it. Like
Has one
what
been
could
given? Yeah, I
possibly
don't.
what
Right.
could possibly be driving this?
Manel Kape and Muhammad Mokaev are fighting for what is the de facto number one contender spot at 125 pounds, the flyweight division. That means whoever wins this fight will fight for the title next. This is especially important in this division because there's no current title fight lined up. So that means whoever wins this fight is fighting as soon as they're ready, basically, for gold. In other divisions like middleweight, you have a number one contender fight, and you have no idea when that can happen. This 125 belt fight will happen as soon as the winner of this fight is ready to go. We have a couple things going on here. The most exciting one isn't even what I'm about to talk about. What I'm about to talk about is the fact that they were on the main card as a number one contender fight, and they got moved to the prelims. No explanation given. They were then moved to the early prelims, which means they'll be one of the first fights on the cards when, with all respect, generally bums and no names are fighting. Okay? So you have a number one contender fight. The number, I don't know what they're ranking. Like number 4 and number 5 guy are fighting one of the earliest fights on the card. On top of that, just tonight, there was a massive brawl in the lobby of one of the hotels that the fighters are staying in between these two guys. Mokaev actually has a cut above his eyebrow from the brawl. You see that?
Yep.
Yeah. So I have nothing to say except Manel Kape really is that guy, except when it comes to making weight or putting on exciting performances.
Showing up for the fight,
But
performing in said fight.
other than that, he's the guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I texted you this earlier. He's one of the few guys I've ever seen whose stock was raised, or at least his profile was raised, not from
Just
the performance
perspective.
not from the performance that he put on in the octagon in the 15 minutes prior, but his post-fight interview in Australia. He was famously supposed to fight Kaikara France. He went on the mic and told Kaikara France that he and the whole city kickboxing team, Dan Hooker, Israel Adesanya, all those guys were a bunch of F words. And people took, I mean, I'm not here to say that's a good thing, but I'm here to say that people took notice and people became very interested in this guy.
If there's one division that could use it, it's 125.
It's 125. So, I'll swing to you. I don't know if you want to talk about what you think is going on with the fight being moved to the prelims. I'm pretty sure neither of us have any idea. This is unprecedented. It's hard to imagine what the rationale would be, or if you just want to get straight into it, into the guys.
So for them moving the fight to the early prelims, I'm just going to speculate that it has something to do with Kape's weight because he misses weight every single time. And so potentially if you're keeping the main card intact with what you have going into the week, and just one of the early prelim fights drops off, that's kind of the consensus speculation on why this is happening. So I agree with that. Still, it's one of the more exciting fights on the card. I don't care where it is. I think Kape's gonna dominate, honestly, and I think that's slightly against consensus. Mokaev is a favorite in Vegas. Not big, but I think he's around minus 140 right now, floating around there. And I think Mokaev's good.
Minus
He
155. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets a little too much shit just because I think people are expecting him to just dominate everyone like he's the Khabib of flyweight and whatnot. But he's been good. I mean, guy's 22 years old and he's never lost a fight. But Kape is real solid, real hard to take down, and is going to dominate on the feet.
He's also
Um,
really solid in the midsection.
yeah, yeah. I think if I had to guess, Kape's probably going to finish him um,
Yeah.
on the feet. I think I'd prefer Mokaev to win because I think I'd like to see, you know, obviously like a young undefeated guy
He's
at
12 and
least try
0
to make it to the top.
at
But
23. He's 23 years old.
yeah,
For a while, he was going after, if you remember, he was trying to beat John Jones' record of being the youngest
right.
champion
Yeah,
until,
it slowed down.
well, it slowed down because he fought a guy without a Wikipedia profile, and that guy knee barred him so hard that everyone was sure he
Yeah.
tore every ligament in his leg, which somehow he miraculously escaped.
Still went on to submit him though. That's impressive.
Did get him in a
Still
neck
went on
crank
to
with
submit him.
28 seconds to go.
That's
Yeah.
impressive. He's good. He's good. It's not disrespect to him. I just think Kape is a tough matchup for him.
I want to shit on him for almost getting knee barred by a no name. But again, at that point, March 23, yeah, he was 21 years old. Like,
Yeah, right.
the guy's super young, and the wrestling is super high level. There's no doubt about that. It is, he, as you texted me, he's worried about getting re-signed because his style is boring. Guess what? His style is boring. But so was Habib's. I don't care what anyone says. Habib's style was very boring as well. And he does.
I told you over text too. Like he's got kind of the English background. He's Muslim, so he checks off a couple of geographic
can fight in Abu
boxes.
Dhabi. Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Abu Dhabi.
He's got a personality. I mean, literally, he's getting in fights in the hotel lobby. Like, this is a promotable guy in a division that's not promotable. So I don't see the problem. That's why I'm kind of rooting for him. It'd be cool to see the Mokaev reign, and then following that, if anybody could eventually beat him as he enters his prime.
He would have a chance to assemble a Demetrius Johnson-esque amount of title defenses at flyweight. Being that young, assuming that he's only going to get better, things could really build, and he could really be an exciting. You know, I'm not saying he will ever be exciting. He doesn't have to be. Like, why would he care what I have to think, right?
Yeah.
But
who cares?
In terms of it being exciting that he's going for his third title, you know, it gets more exciting every time.
Who do you got in the fight?
Love has blurred my vision. I want Kape to win so bad. I can't even tell you. I thought, look, he misses weight a bunch, but he's an exciting striker. The problem is he can get into point fighting, and usually one of the saving graces of 125 when you don't have the name recognition is that these guys, the cardio is insane and the chins are insane because there's not enough power behind the punch. Kape can still get into some point fighting, like when Kaikara France dropped out and Dos Santos popped in. Dos Santos put on a really tough performance, and he got hit with a lot. But there were big stretches where Kape was really circling, you know, body kick, circle.
Well, with that weight cut, he's got to be gassed come mid round 2.
Well, we've talked about this.
He's not a flyweight.
He's about 4. I don't understand how you can say he's not a flyweight. He's 5'6". I mean, if he's not a flyweight, I'm not.
Marab's 5'6". Marab's 5'6".
Marab fought at well, okay. Mokaev did fight at flyweight. I think Kape goes a little. I don't have much to substantiate this. I think he's a little bit of a party freak from what I've seen.
Right.
And I think he's on the booze a little bit too much. But apparently he's in the best shape he's ever been. The lowest weight, he's at 133 on Wednesday for the 125 cut on Friday, and that's the lowest weight he's ever been. So it seems like he got his shit together for this fight, and because of that, I love him here.
I
I
hope
also
that's
think
real. I hope that's a fact. I know that was reported, but
yeah.
it just you can't just constant. I mean, this is even past Gastelum level. It's unacceptable.
I don't. Well, yeah, that would be a good debate. Who's got the worst weight cut excuses in the UFC? But yeah, I got Cop. I don't know finish, but I think he can
Yeah.
hurt him, and I agree with you. Takedown defense is pretty good. So now we get into one of the few disagreements in Teep Show history. Here we have the reigning, by the way, very important to preface this, Tom Aspinall is defending the interim championship belt against Curtis Blaydes. That is
Weird.
the first time that an interim championship belt has ever been defended. John, tell me why interim belts are there in the first place.
Hmm. If a if an undisputed champion can't defend their belt for whatever reason, like Jones getting what was his injury with his knee?
The one that just happened?
I mean, it
It was
just
his pec.
happened. He's
His
been out
pec, yeah.
for. Oh yeah,
He
that's
tore his
right.
pec.
He was wrestling. Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
the video.
Yeah. Yeah, injury. It's almost always injury. And so John Jones got injured. And so I think this is a one-off situation. I think this is a one-off situation you make for the greatest of all time, John Jones. Because this defending the whole point of an interim belt is that the interim guy then fights the undisputed guy, and you see who the real champion is. I think this will never happen again, or at least won't happen until they have someone like a Jones or someone like a McGregor, even who's got the hype to back it. That all being said, Tom Aspinall, who we both think is the best heavyweight in the world, is defending his belt against Curtis Blaydes, who we both used to think was the best heavyweight in the world.
Both true statements. Yes.
This is a really exciting fight. Much more exciting than the next fight we're going to talk about. I think that this is the fight of the night. In the same way that when I was at MSG watching the fight, Aspinall Pavlovich for the interim belt seemed way more exciting. Not way more, but more exciting than Yuri Alex. Just like two bad dudes going at it. And at heavyweight, as we saw in November, it can be over in a minute. So
yeah,
with that long intro, I've talked enough. Give me the case for Curtis Blaydes.
The case for
people
Curtis.
people might know Tom Aspinall, right? But I feel like people don't know Curtis Blaydes.
Nobody's ever known Curtis Blaydes. The case for Curtis Blaydes is that he is the second best heavyweight in the world. He's very, very good, and it's heavyweight. The latter point is the most important there. So anything can happen at heavyweight. Like the gap in skills is so much less significant to the result of the fight than it is at any other weight class. And that's been displayed in Curtis Blaydes' career several times when he's been knocked out by Derek Lewis, for example.
I was just going to say, it's important to say that he was on a track for gold, and he probably would be the defending champion were it not for one of the all-time fluke knockouts in Derek Lewis. Yeah.
So he's still probably the best wrestler at heavyweight. I think Tom's probably better on the ground with submission skills and whatnot. But just if we're talking just wrestling, maybe against the fence and taking someone down, Blaydes is probably the best. So he's got a shot. He's got a real shot at that weight class. The only thing is, I don't see what he's better at than Tom. I don't think he's going to be able to take Tom down at will. And even if he does, I don't know if it matters because Tom's a legit black belt. And Tom is way faster. And that's not even a slight on Curtis. I think Curtis is pretty fast for heavyweight, has pretty good
No,
hands.
you've said this before.
But Tom is
He
the speed
moves
of
like
a
a middleweight.
middleweight.
Moves it like
Speed
a
of a
middleweight.
middleweight, dude. Like, it's really, I mean, dude, I'm one of the biggest Curtis Blaydes fans and shareholders in the world,
Sure.
and there's no way you can pick him over Tom. Like, there's no way you can pick anybody over Tom because he's just that good. Can anything happen because it's heavyweight? Yes, it literally did happen in their previous matchup, obviously with a quote unquote fluky injury to Tom, so Curtis won. But Tom, I mean, lock Tom in the room with any other person on the planet, and I think he's coming out. So that's my prediction.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't pick against Tom. Except if you're willing to nut up and pick Curtis Blaydes against Tom Aspinall. Curtis Blaydes is one of the what ifs of the sport. I think he should have not only the belt, but he should have some title defenses under his name. You know, he got knocked out by Francis Ngannou. He had beat Alistair right before that. Like,
he was like a minus 550 favorite against Ngannou their first matchup. Yeah.
And guess what? If they fought again,
he'd probably win.
He'd probably win, but he'd probably be a favorite too. He'd probably be a Vegas. Yeah. Well, I don't know. As you said, frat boys would bet the shit out of Ngannou. Right. But
that Ngannou Paddy parlay is gonna go crazy for DK.
Listen to this. JDS, Junior Dos Santos, Volkov sets the record for most takedowns in a fight at heavyweight. Is dominating Derek Lewis everywhere. Gets hit with an uppercut from God. Rosenstruck, same thing, gone. Knocks out Dacus. Aspinall, fluke. And then he just faced the boogeyman, the absolute boogeyman in Jailton Almeida, who was able to take him down a lot, which is very surprising. But
impressive, but
it didn't matter.
Blaydes that dude.
Blaydes is that dude. Blaydes knocked him out by hammer. I mean, probably the best elbows in the UFC. I watched a video today.
I mean, dude, it's heavyweight. Like, if a dude is
for sure.
that big, that fucking big, elbowing your temple and fisting your temple, you're not gonna fucking survive that.
Do you remember the Alistair fight? How it ended?
Yeah, of course.
Do you remember the blood just springing after, like, he hits one elbow and blood just explodes everywhere?
He's a real heavyweight. Like, he has to cut to 265. Not a lot of weight, but he has to cut to 265 the day of. Yeah. He's one of the bigger dudes in the division. So does Tom, to be fair.
Here's my path for you, is that I think that Blaydes will be able to get Aspinall down. Maybe not at will. Aspinall has the advantage on the feet, no doubt. Aspinall has the advantage on the feet against everyone except maybe John Jones. I know you don't agree with that.
Tom all day.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Jones used to be a light heavyweight. He really is a light heavyweight with some fat on him. But here's what I think you're missing is that Jitsu at this level is cool, but they're so big that ground control is so much more important than what Aspinall would be able to throw off his back in terms of when Curtis is on top. It's not going to be Volkov where Aspinall can, grab his arm and roll over and arm par him. When Blaydes is on top, that's 270, 275 on top of you.
You're not wrong. It's just the fact that the fight is going to end in a minute. Like,
on the feet,
it's hard to like break this down much because there's just like no matter who wins or what the method of victory is, it's not going to last more than a round, right? Like there's just no way. And so like the most likely thing to happen is they fucking meet up in the and they did this in their last fight too. They just started swinging like fucking banshees, and
that's what scares me. We talked about this a while ago. Blaydes will knock somebody out and then fall in love with his hands.
Right.
and
Yeah.
then start like he knocked Dawkins out,
He said
and
that
then
about the Tom fight too. He was like, I felt faster in there. I saw everything. Like, dude, if you think you're
I
faster
don't
than
like.
Tom, you're gonna get
I,
1-2'd in 30 seconds.
dude, I don't like that. Well,
Yeah.
the other problem is he's very chinny.
Yeah,
Um,
he is.
a little bit like my other boy Robert Whitaker, very chinny. And so anytime if he gets hit with a 1-2 right down the middle, even that I'm like biting my nails. Right?
Sure.
I don't want him to get hit with anything. Where Aspinall, young guy, got hit with that Pavi, fucking hook from God, and was a little shook but able to stay up. If Aspinall lands something clean on Curtis, he's hurt. He's hurt.
Sure.
So I hope that Curtis employs what he said he would do against Alex Pereira. They asked him what would happen if Alex Pereira come up to heavyweight. He said, "Fuck no, I'll shoot on him immediately. Why would I stand with him?"
Right.
And I really hope that is the mindset going into this. Even as I'm saying this, I'm starting to doubt my pick because I don't. If that's true that he
I
felt
get it.
faster than
I get it.
Aspinall,
I mean, Blaydes is
but
that dude. Like the betting pick is certainly Blaydes. 100%.
what's crazy to me, Jonah, is that he is the second biggest dog on the card.
Yeah. It's
There's only
disrespectful.
one person. It's only Pineda is a bigger dog.
Yeah.
And that's disrespectful. And we talked about this, right? It's disrespectful for two reasons. Well, one here is that it's heavyweight. Like, not that it's 50-50, but man, it's a lot closer to 50-50 than you like to admit.
In the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Now we're getting to a fight that I don't really want to preview, but we probably should because it is the headlining fight of UFC 304. It is England's own, Birmingham's own, Leon Edwards in his third title defense against the man everyone lines up to see, Belal, remember the name, Muhammad. I'm a masochist. I obviously must have very low self-esteem because I watched a lot of Belal Muhammad fights in the last couple of days. And so we're going to do something different here. I'm going to give you the Belal scouting report, and then you can give me the Leon scouting report.
Do it.
How's that sound?
Go for it.
The fight that is most pertinent here is not the last fight that Belal Muhammad had against Gilbert Burns. It is the fight before that when he fought Boogeyman Sean Brady in a matchup of ugly kind of Midwestern states training camps. Brady, by the way, if we ever do the worst tats Mount Rushmore, good Lord, brother.
Brady he loves them too. He loves them.
His whole body.
Yeah.
Brady is a real guy, a guy that I think beats Ian Gary tomorrow. Real wrestler, and he's got heavy hands as well. It was interesting watching that to see really whoever had the pressure, whoever had forward momentum, was having success in landing. I mean, almost as a rule, Belal won the first round, but Brady looked the best for the first half.
I had Brady round one.
Did you?
Brady
yeah.
round one in that
yeah.
fight. It was close though. It
was close. Close, not in the way that like no one did anything. Close in that both guys landed, right?
Right.
And it was really interesting to watch. Like Bilal's backing up for the first half, Brady's landing, then Belal moves forward, and so Belal is a pressure fighter. I think one of the biggest. I'm not trying to be a frat boy here, but one of the biggest advantages or reasons to think he can proceed is his training camp with Khabib Nurmagomedov, where he's fighting with the Dagestanis who have this crazy reputation for training camp intensity and all this and breakdowns too. Belal was very effusive. Although Belal's been saying a lot of shit this week, but Belal was very effusive about the effect Khabib's coaching and breakdown on Leon had. It's hard to say if Belal was able to negate Brady's wrestling or if it was a case of two wrestlers deciding to stand and bang, a la Usman and Colby. I think it's the latter probably. We talked offline about the top 5 chins in the UFC. I have my 5th. It's not Colby. It's not Ortega. Watching that fight, that Brady fight again, it's Belal. Brady clips him a lot, and his head, his head
left
barely
hook was
moves.
auto. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, yep. He throws in a really orthodox way, an aesthetically displeasing way, where he's really raising his shoulder like he's throwing an overhand, but then lets the 1-2, the jab, and the straight loose from there, almost like from a elevated position. You could say it's ugly, but you can't deny he had success on the feet there. I'm a massive fan of Brady, but his championship hopes aren't based in his stand up. Bilal's walking him down at points. When you look at that in terms of a striker v striker, Belal had very boring wrestling victories over Wonderboy. He had a very boring striking victory over Burns with one torn labrum, I think it was, a bum shoulder or something like that where he couldn't throw. Bilal's paths here, I'm not saying anything revolutionary. It's going to have to be moving forward, high pressure, trying to gas Leon. He does have a sneaky left high head kick, which Felder touched on, but you can also see. I kept coming back to what I want to call the Mackenzie Dern principle, which is you see somebody with a non-striking background, right? Bilal's a wrestler, Mackenzie, BJJ. You see someone have this seeming breakthrough on the striking front where all of a sudden they look like they've figured it out. They've trained the right way. They've been to the right camps, whatever it is, where all of a sudden they look. This is Mackenzie Dern against Angela Hill, where she's, hitting her with elbows, spinning fit, as Nate Diaz would say, and just really solid boxing. And I think it's really tempting to take that Brady film and say, all right, this is where he is as a striker. Where I think it's much more likely based on the evidence we have. We like to think of guys on this trajectory. I think it's much more prudent to say we've seen a lot of Belal tape. He's been in the UFC a long time now. And it's much more prudent to regard that Brady film as a one-off as opposed to what the new standard is going to be for what his striking capabilities are. I think the Leon line is too weak. He's at 255 right now. Aspinall's at 370. I think,
Leon's
and I
up
know
to
you.
255.
Yeah,
That's climbing up, then, because it was 200.
Yeah, I
earlier
texted
in
you
the
earlier.
week.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
That's climbing.
I know we both agree Leon should be a heavier favorite in this than Tom Aspinall.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it
Not
on
even
that.
close. Not even close.
Yeah, right. And I really want to hammer home this Mackenzie Dern principle because I watched the Angela Hill fight and I was like, oh my God, she's leveled up. And when you watch that Brady fight, you can say, oh, it's unorthodox, but it works. He wasn't able to create damage like that against anybody else. And especially going strike for strike against Leon, who you'll get to, it's hard to see it. I think the path would have to be high pressure, try to gas him and catch him with. Leon's got excellent takedown defense. Try to catch him with, a sub late, but even that's going to be a tough gig. I think it's really, really tough challenge and path for Belal.
Yeah, on Leon, I mean, I don't like this because not the biggest Leon fan. His fights.
And why is that? Because the fight
his
style?
fights aren't the most entertaining. And there's nothing that grabs me or really anybody else about his personality. But he's probably the toughest guy to beat at welterweight. The thing is, it's never gonna look like overwhelmingly dominant to somebody who doesn't watch fights a lot, like where they maybe would expect him to win a fight in the first round and
a finish. Finish would be nice, right?
That's not really what he does. But he's seemingly impossible to take down at this point. like based on if you just never watched the Usman 2 fight, which he ended up winning with that head kick at the end. I mean, the last couple fights with against Usman and Colby, you could argue are the best wrestlers in the division.
I think you'd have to. Yeah.
They didn't have a chance at taking him down. And
Leon,
I mean,
Leon even got a little takedown of his own, eh?
against both of them too.
Yeah.
I mean, he got that inside trip against Usman in their second fight in the first round and won that round because of it. And then he was like before the fifth round where he gassed a little bit, but he already had the fight locked up. He was beating up Colby on the ground. He was just showing his wrestling for the sake of showing his wrestling. And I think Belal's good. He's solid everywhere. That's not a secret to anybody that watches him. But I don't think his wrestling is as good as those guys, and I don't think his boxing is as good as the top strikers in the division. So Leon, it's really a perfect matchup for him. Like he just gets to stay at range. He's longer. He's huge. Stay at range and just pick them apart like you do everyone. And it's not that exciting. There's not going to be, the crowd in Manchester is not going to be popping off watching him pick apart Belal just like he did to Colby in December.
I was there.
Yeah, but
God damn it.
Yeah, that's fucking boring. I mean, you can attest to that in person.
And Royval Pantoja was the other fight, so I'll go fuck myself. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Leon just gets to cruise here. Like, I don't. It's gonna take one of the other top strikers in the division to take down Leon. And by the way, I don't even know if they can. He's that good. He's that fast, and he's that big. So it'll be close when he starts fighting these guys like Shavkat and Gary and whatnot. But Belal it's like a tailor-made matchup for Leon to go to school. I'm not completely discounting Belal because he's, like I said, solid everywhere.
Solid everywhere. Yeah.
But
right.
but
I think what it comes down
Leon's
to
fight to lose
is if you don't believe that Belal's got elite level wrestling, then he's fucked.
He doesn't. Yeah.
And I don't believe he has.
I don't think anybody does. I don't think anybody does. So
if you don't think he has wrestling on par to or greater than Kamaru and Colby, then he's fucked.
And I think at this point, Leon's takedown defense is elite as well.
Well, so exactly.
It might not even matter if he did have that good of wrestling. So I think Leon just gets to cruise Saturday.
Final call. Leon, and we like the value.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. That's it. Wow. Is that the fastest main card preview we ever done? Who knows? Who cares?
It's a good card. Good card.
It is. It is a good card. Yeah, one of those. Well, now it's start to finish because fucking Kape Mokaev is on the early prelims. But it's one of those cards you can feel good about tuning in at least at 8 for the prelims and watching all the way throughout.
Yeah.
Is this the longest we've ever done on a preview or the shortest? Doesn't matter. We have more coming. We have a mailbag from you guys, the listeners. Thank you so much for submitting. If you didn't submit, figure it out, and we'll do it next time. We're going to start with a 4-parter, okay? And we're going to do a 4-parter. Alex from New York, not me, has 4 questions, which I wouldn't have put all 4 in, except I thought all 4 were very good. The first one, what is your favorite knockout of all time?
Okay, top of my head, just right off the top
Don't
of my head.
Say max 300. Don't say max 300.
No.
Okay.
I wasn't a fan of that one. Corey kneeing Frankie Edgar. And it's so much bias there because Corey's maybe my favorite fighter in the UFC.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get sicker than flying knee in the first 30 seconds to put a dude's lights out.
A
out
legend,
cold.
a
Yeah,
legend,
yeah,
a,
yeah,
a Hall of
yeah.
Famer, right? A title
And
guy,
and
right?
that fast, I mean, it's hard to beat that. So I'm gonna
Oh,
go Corey's flying knee.
that's a good one. You know, it's tough not to say like McGregor Aldo.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good question. I would probably, off the top of my head, I'd probably say Rafael Fiziev against Brad Riddell.
Interesting.
Spinning wheel
It
kick.
was nasty. That was a
Nasty,
nasty.
and it's like,
And Riddell was like out of
yeah,
he
like
was literally like didn't know what was going on and asking for the fight to be stopped, waving his hands like that.
I think what makes it so special for me was that if you're a sicko like you and me, you know that both those guys were lead instructor or something at Tiger Muay
Tiger.
Thai,
Yeah,
which,
yeah.
yeah, which is one of Thailand's best pro MMA camp. So these guys were both at different points. It'd be like, I'm trying to think of a Harry Potter reference or something. It'd be like Rob Stark fighting Jon Snow and Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like both these guys at different points were deemed the best in the
Right.
camp and the two legends. And so for it to be a spinning wheel kick, man, that was good. I'm a sucker for leg to head in general, I think.
Fair.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite pre-fight rituals of any fighters? I'll go first. I love Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whitaker. When he comes in the cage, he'll stomp and then beat the shit out of his chest.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to retweet yours.
Yeah.
And let me just acknowledge that on both accounts for me and you, that is complete bias. Just because we love Rob so much.
Oh, but if I we watched Robert Whitaker's last fight together, right? And he does it, and you and I are like shaking each other, like, oh, let's go.
The best.
Yeah, and you see him get fired up, it's impossible not
because
to get fired
if you
up.
know who he is and he's that chill of a dude,
yeah,
and getting
right.
and that amount of energy in him, that's probably, I agree with you.
This one is a more thoughtful question. How helpful do you think coaches are mid-round from the corner?
I think that's a case by case scenario. I think there's a lot of fighters that are basically not even there when they go back to winning or losing. They're basically not even there, not even listening to whatever the guy is saying to them. And then there's a ton of fighters that are. I think Corey Sandhagen's probably the prime example of somebody who's like super engaged in what their coach is saying and trying to learn round to round what's going on. To the point where they're literally having a conversation. It's not just a one-way traffic from the coach to Corey, but a conversation. So I think it's very important for those who take advantage of it, and I think it's a complete non-factor for those who don't.
Yeah, I'd segregate it into, first of all, distance matters. I think if you're right against the cage, your odds of listening to your coach go up exponentially. But if you're against the other guy's corner, you're probably not even able to hear what's going on. Second, I think I would segregate it into ground game versus stand-up. I think from what I've seen, people are more willing to accept advice and implement it, more importantly, on the ground, which makes sense. Things aren't moving as fast, right? You're not as worried about a foot landing in your face. So I think I would say mostly it matters ground versus standing. This is my favorite. I think this will be my favorite question we've ever been asked, ever. What is the most damage a fighter has ever taken in a fight? I'll go first.
Okay,
I'll go first. I think the answer has to be Calvin Kattar against Max Holloway.
Yeah, I mean, it literally set the record for strikes, didn't it?
For strikes by 20% or something crazy like that. Yeah. You could argue like Derek Lewis hitting the follow-up punches on Curtis Blaydes after the,
Nah.
Yeah, but like in terms of, I think that question is so special because you have to think about like it almost can't be a knockout in the first 3 rounds.
Right. Agreed.
It has to be someone that sustains damage. And Cater went to decision, but yeah,
The
like a
first
guy.
one that popped in my head was Moicano against RDA on 4 days notice.
Don't say that.
But
Don't say
I I know I don't like it either. But I think I like your answer better because Cater got his fucking ass beat.
Yeah.
It literally Max literally landed the most strikes in UFC history.
Honorable mention, I think, would be Hooker versus Poirier, where he gets
Yeah.
medevac to the hospital. That's just what came up.
Yeah.
Dave from Virginia asks, what is Paddy's ultimate ceiling in the UFC?
I think guys that he's beating now, King Green, who he's fighting this weekend, I would expect him to be able to beat people in between those 2 levels. So maybe some lightweights that have more name recognition and are just outside the top 15. But I feel pretty confident saying he'll never be a ranked lightweight.
You think he'll be like King Green, basically, like flirting with 14 for the rest of his career?
But the thing is, King
but below
has
that.
actually done it.
God, I think 14,
I think he'll be right below that.
Yeah, what's his ceiling? I mean, I can see him winning this weekend. I don't think it's likely. So that puts him at 14. I think with Matt, if he fights Moicano, I think it's really hard to see him getting into single digits. I think it's very hard to see him ever getting into single digits. I could see him being match made and pretty much anywhere. Yeah. I guess I'm a little bit more optimistic than you. Like, you get the right guy, he could go to 13 or 12, whatever.
Not in that division.
Well, that's the thing. Well, that brings us right back to our next question, which is, who is Sam from Florida asks, who is the worst fighter that could knock out Paddy in the first round right now? And I know the answer. It's actually, you don't even have to answer.
Go ahead.
It's done. It's Terrence McKinney. Terrence McKinney could absolutely knock out Paddy in one. Absolutely could knock out Paddy in one round.
I kind of like that fight for Paddy. I kind of like that fight for Paddy.
He might win it, but he also might get knocked in the first 30 seconds. Dude, Terrence, for all his flaws, does have crazy one-punch knockout power. I was thinking of Frevola, too.
My answer was going to be Frevola. I think Frevola would put the lights out within a minute against Paddy.
Yeah. I mean, ranking-wise, I said this earlier, ranking-wise, the worst guy that could definitely get him out in one round, Benoit Saint-Denis. There's no way Paddy's leaving there after. I think it would be like
would
minus...
do that to like top 5 guys, possibly, let alone Paddy. So
correct. Rankings-wise, though, you know what I mean?
Sure,
like,
I know what you
mean. I don't know if Jalen gets him out in one, but okay.
Yeah.
Jalen's
getting him out in one. 100%.
Well, Jalen's the best 100%. Lightweight that's ever lived.
Right.
Paul from Papua New Guinea. I didn't know we had fans in Papua New Guinea. Asks, what's next for the loser of the 175 belt fight this weekend?
The 170 belt?
Sorry, 170 belt. Yeah, 170.
I'd say that's basically asking what's next for Belal. And the answer is
he's so fucked. He's so fucked.
Yes, he is.
He's so fucked.
Because he's going to get fed to the fucking wolves
soon
as he loses. It's over.
Brady Muhammad too.
Because he's got that number 2 ranking spot, and they want to give it to some young, marketable, good fighters.
Yeah.
I think
anybody else.
The most likely opponent for him next would be Ian Gary. Because I think Ian Gary would beat the fuck out of him. And
I think UFC would love
that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's really not that hard of a decision. especially because if Leon does to Belal exactly what I think he's going to do, Ian Gary can probably do the same exact thing. And so he'll just have the blueprint to doing that.
I hate
So
Ian
I think
Gary,
it's Gary.
but
Yeah.
I even think Gary gets after it more, so I think it could be more violent.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
don't disagree. Yeah. Leon's a little safer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is it for us. That is episode clocking in at 105. We are episode 4, maybe. Who knows? Who cares? We're just here for you guys and for UFC 304 in Manchester, England. Any closing remarks, Jonah?
Great fucking card, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I'm glad the stars aligned for Manchester because it didn't seem like it would be that way a couple of years ago. But this is a worthy pay-per-view event for a small country, so should be good.
Yeah. Can't wait. Can't wait. And we get to enjoy it at 8 and 10 p.m. And they have
Hell
to
yeah.
wait for 1 and 3 a.m.
Thanks, Dana.
If you had any idea who won the Revolutionary War,
Yeah.
now you know. That's it,
Still
baby.
reaping the benefits.
That's it for us. I'm Alex. This is Jonah. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.